Well, hello everybody and welcome to our webinar. We are excited that you are here. My name is Pete Hodgen and I'm going to be taking us through our presentation today on building a culture of connection. So how do we onboard and integrate new members? I'll give everyone a few minutes to join the session. So we'll just give you a minute or two to get in here and get settled in. And while we do that, a couple housekeeping items. Inside of your sidebar menu, there's a couple options for you there. If you have questions or if at any time you want to request a follow-up from anyone from our team, please feel free to do so. My email is listed in my bio there in the side. So if you do have a question during the webinar and you want a follow-up, please feel free to send me a direct email, ask me a question, more than happy to help there. You can also just click request a demo, put your question in there, and someone from our team will follow up as well to make sure we get your questions answered. So with that, let's jump in. And I'm excited to talk about our culture connection today. So first, our topic, we're going to talk about building a culture of connection. And why is that important? Why is that even important to you and member integration and connection? We'll talk about laying the foundation. Like, what are the first steps to building that culture of connection? What are some best practices for onboarding those new members? What does it look like to integrate new members into the broader community, right? So they're no longer just a part of maybe a new member group, but they're a part of the broader community. And ultimately, automating that engagement. How do we do some automation to make your life easier? How do we measure success and adapt those onboarding strategies? And then finally, we'll wrap it up with some next steps for you. So excited to dive in, and let's jump right in. So first, building a culture of connection. The first thing is just what is the challenge, right, to do so? And if we think about it, creating a culture of connection means fostering an environment where members feel valued, where they feel supported and actively engaged, right? It emphasizes meaningful relationships, personalized interactions, a sense of belonging, and all of that is going to drive retention, it's going to drive member satisfaction, and it's going to drive long-term loyalty. And so when we think of that, creating that culture, the first thing is that challenge, like that early and effective member engagement is so important. And many organizations struggle with early member engagement, right? And that leads to really high drop-off rates. So first, we just have to acknowledge that, like, hey, this is a challenge. Everybody that's here today, we probably can all say we've all experienced this challenge. You are not alone on an island saying, I'm the only one that's experienced this. So first we address it and say, okay, here's the challenge, right? Now, once we know that we say, hey, here's the challenge, now we start to think about, okay, well, what are the next steps to do that, right? What's another question that we ask is, well, if this is a challenge, what is the cost to do this, right? And ultimately, retaining members is 5 to 7x more cost effective than acquiring new ones. So we think about this, we say, okay, I've got a challenge, early and effective member engagement. I need to solve this, because if I don't, the cost of losing these members later is going to be far greater than trying to gather those new people. So I need to keep these members engaged and connected. And now, of course, we always want new members. That's important. But our net number, we don't want to see that kind of leaky bucket, right? So we say, hey, this is expensive. And I'm sure we can all see this in our own numbers within our organizations. So what's the solution, right? We have a challenge. We know it's cost effective to us, right? The solution, strong onboarding, and we're going to go through all of this today, but strong onboarding. We have to make sure that we have a strong onboarding process, that we create personalized experiences, and ultimately that we create really quick and early, easy engagement opportunities for those members, right? We don't want them to join and then it's, weeks and weeks and months until there's an opportunity for them to engage. You need to have a strategy right away to bring them in, have a plan in place so that we can get them connected as quickly as possible. And finally, the impact, right? Effective member integration is going to boost that long-term retention, and it's going to build a culture of connection, right? There's two sides to this. One, of course, is the numbers, right? We're like the cost, the challenge, the impact. But the other side is just, we want to make these people's lives better. Like what you do as an organization is vitally important to your community, to your region, to, the world around you. And so the impact that that's going to have on the individual and their greater community is a big thing to keep in mind. So, right, I always like to come back to that to say it's more than just the numbers, right? There's a human aspect to this of how does this boost that long-term retention, build that culture of connection where somebody that maybe in their life has felt disconnected in other areas is going to feel that connection point with you. So with that, let's jump into a couple just stats and look at a few things. So first, laying for culture connection. So we talked about this a little bit, but challenges, right? So first, looking at lack of personalization. So if we say, hey, we have really, really generic onboarding, right? Like versus a tailored approach. So if we look at this and say, okay, like generic onboarding disengages members. Instead, how do we focus more on a tailored approach to improve that satisfaction? So as an example, when those members first come in, instead of just saying, here's a generic plan that everybody's going to go through, let's focus on a tailored approach. So if we know that we have a certain number of groups, and I'll just say, let's say we're an organization and we have maybe young professionals, we have some developed leaders, maybe we have some retired leaders in our space. Let's create an onboarding that is tailored to each of those groups, right? So maybe you have a member that's joining that's brand new to your industry or brand new to that space. The onboarding for them may be totally different than somebody who is maybe new to your organization, but they're not new to this space, right? So creating that tailored approach might be totally different for a new member that is brand new to your industry versus someone that has experience, right? So personalize that experience. The second component of this is looking at how overwhelming it is for members. Like 25% of members feel disconnected due to unclear guidance. So it's like it's overwhelming. There's incomplete info, like where do I go? What's the next step? So part of this is just also having clear guidance for them, right? So you can say, hey, here's exactly what you're going to do. Here's how it's going to benefit you. And here's how we're going to help you get through that, right? So try to take away that overwhelming feeling when there's incomplete info, there's missing steps, there's gaps in the process, right? Third, poor communication, right, is a challenge. Like inconsistent communication reduces engagement. Frequent touch points help, right? So from a communication perspective, let's think about, hey, if we have a new member, for the first 60 days, let's already have a communication plan in place that is going to, reach them a couple times a week, right? So it might be even just little emails. It might be, setting a task to give them a quick phone call. It could be connecting them with another member so that they have some frequent touch points, not just directly from you as an organization, but from someone else. So a lot of times, I see organizations do this, and it's great. Like when you first onboard as a member, hey, Pete, you're brand new. We're going to team you up with, Susan. She's been here for 10 years. She knows the space. She knows our organization. She wants to make sure that you have, a great experience. And Susan can help in those frequent touch points, right? So take some of that, one, off of your plate, but two, bring a second voice into that opportunity. So third is limited engagement. So 90-day engagement strategy. So have a plan, right? Low engagement in the first 3 months. That 90-day number is super important to remember. Low engagement in the first 3 months hurts long-term retention. So make sure you have a plan to say, hey, what are people going to do for that first 90-day strategy, okay? Absence of community, this is huge, right? Lack of connection leaves members feeling isolated. Online communities, we know, improve retention by anywhere between 20 to 30% on average, right? So when we see that number, we say, okay, do you have an online community today? Let's go back to our example of those frequent touch points, right? If I join, am I alone on an island, or is there a place that I can go while I'm onboarding where I can meet other people, I can network, I can get connected, right? Those online community touch points are so important, not only for onboarding, but ongoing member engagement and connection. So if you don't have an online community, we'd love to chat with you about it. Like the GrowthZone online community is amazing. We think it can, really help. But maybe you already have an online community, or you're doing something in that space. Like have some way that your communities can engage from that online perspective. And then finally, failure to highlight value, right? Without clear benefits, members may question their decision to join. So, once they've joined, sure, here's the next steps. Here's the steps that we're going to take. Here is the touch points. Here's the plan. Here's the 90-day engagement strategy. But before they even get to that step, they have to know what the value is ahead of time. So lay that out for them beforehand so that they can see, okay, what are the opportunities here? What are the benefits that I have within this organization for connection and engagement, right? All right, let's jump into best practice for onboarding new members. So a few things here, some key tactics and some thoughts here. When we think about the opportunity for, sorry, my screen froze here. Give me 1 second. There we go. When we think about the opportunity for key tactics for onboarding, we think about things like welcome messages, right? We think about the opportunities we have. So how do we bring people in and make it easy for them? So one, key tactics, some welcome messages. How do we keep that connected for them? Two, creating a member orientation journey. So we've talked about this a little bit already, but create that plan. So maybe it's a 90-day strategy. We're like, here's what you're going to do over the next 90 days. Create opportunities for engagement and rewards for them, right? So, hey, what are you going to earn if you do this, right? It's not selfish to ask that question, but how are we going to reward and recognize people for participating? Sometimes these are monetary things. Sometimes they're gift cards, they're discounts, they're opportunities, to attend something for free. That's awesome. But sometimes it's just recognition and recognizing them within the community. Hey, everyone, Pete is a new member, and he's been really crushing it when it comes to our onboarding, getting him in. He's done all these things. He's met these other people. Like, we just want to recognize him for being an outstanding new member to our community. Those types of things can have a huge impact on somebody's retention, because they're like, man, I was recognized. I was called out in front of everybody, made me feel good, right? There's aspects to this still that go back to that human side. And then leverage interactive features. And we'll talk about this a little bit more later as well, but make sure that we're leveraging things that are not just one way, that there's an opportunity for that interaction with either other people or next steps for them to participate. So key strategy, integrating new members into the broader community. So now that they're kind of onboarded, how do we start to integrate them into that broader community where we say, hey, like, what are you going to do now that you're a part of this organization? You're a part of the community, right? So some key strategies here. So one, structured engagement opportunities. So interest-based groups, forums, mentorship programs, great examples of these. The opportunity, that you can give people when they come in. So an example would be when I come in, maybe I'm really, really interested in a specific area, and one of the big categories nowadays is AI, right? We're all talking about AI. Let's say that there's an interest-based group around AI, and I want to be a part of that group because it has a major impact on me and my role at my organization. I want to meet other people. I want to talk about it. I want to ask questions. I want to learn from other people and see what are they doing, right? So allow them to either find those interest-based groups, or if you have some information about them already, funnel them into those groups and say, hey, welcome, we're glad you're here. Here's some interest-based groups that we, based on what we learned about you during onboarding, we think that you'd be interested in. So let's get you connected and engaged into those things, right? The second might be things like forums. Those might be a more global opportunity. Maybe they're not segmented down to a specific group or topic, but the forums, maybe you have a global opportunity where people can come and engage in all sorts of different conversations, ask questions, see what other people are talking about. So give them an opportunity to start to engage in that broader community, right? Where they're not maybe just connected in a small cohort or that interest-based group, but they can see what is everybody else in the community doing? What are they talking about, right? And so that's a great way to start to integrate them into that broader community. And then finally, if you're not already doing this, mentorship programs are a great way, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but they are a great way to be able to create those opportunities for new members into that community. So maybe it's, hey, as I mentioned earlier, Pete, you're new to the community. We love the fact that you are here. We want to connect you with some mentor, people that have been in this industry for 20, 30 years. Now all of a sudden, they're much more connected in that they're not just alone, again, by themselves doing something, but they're connected to somebody who has a lot of experience in the space. You have a second voice that's helping prepare and create that. And you also, are giving them an opportunity to grow their knowledge and what they can do within the organization, right? So with that, let's dive into a couple others. The second is organic peer connections. So not only can you help structure them into engagement opportunities, hey, Pete, here's some structured areas we think, right? You can guide them specifically. Here's some interest-based groups we think you'd like. Here's some forums we think you'd find interesting. Here's some mentorship programs that we think you should participate in. But here's some organic connections as well. So as they're just in this, now inside of your community, they can start to meet other people, right? They're in a forum and they see, hey, Steve posted a question or posted a comment. I really, really like what he said. I'd love to get to know Steve more. Cool. I click on his profile. I learn a little bit more about him and his experience. And maybe I want to send him a quick one-to-one message or set up a call with him. Maybe there's group networking opportunities, right? So the ability to start to create those structured engagement opportunities, but also those organic one-to-one group networking peer connections is super, super important into getting them connected to that broader community. And again, the more that they are in here, right, those touch points come back to this. So create those automated touch points that are going to help drive them back into these engagement moments. So that way they are constantly coming back, right? We don't want them at any time to go weeks or months without a touch point, or weeks or months without being a part of a conversation. The more continuous that we can make that for them, the better it's going to be for their personal growth and their engagement, but also for you and your retention and that member satisfaction. Okay, so we talked a little bit about how do we start to bring them into your organization, how do we start to bring them into the broader community. Now let's talk about some automation. How do we start to automate some engagement touch points, right? And this is super important because ultimately we can't do it all manually all the time, right? So it's so important that we're able to automate some of these and make some of these things a little easier on ourselves, on our staff, and make it, again, just let's use technology to our advantage, right? So some key strategies here. One is engagement triggers. So we want to create what we call return triggers that nudge members to re-engage. Usually this is based off of their activity. So as an example, inside of our community here at GrowthZone, one of the things you can do is you can follow different forum topics, right? So there may be 10, 20, 30 different topics. Maybe there's 4 or 5 that you're really, really interested in, right? I want to click the follow button, right? And what it's going to do is it's going to help create a return trigger that nudges me to re-engage when something takes place inside of a forum that I follow. So I'm following, let's say forum, we'll stay with AI. I'm following the forum on AI, and somebody posts a new question, right? There's going to be an automatic trigger that is going to nudge me to re-engage. Hey, there was a question that was asked in the forum that you follow. And now I can go read the question. I can see the comments. Maybe I want to provide an answer back, or I want to ask an additional question, right? So create those engagement triggers. So forum's a great way to do that. There's tons of different opportunities you have within, the community platform. If you are using another community platform today, definitely look into that and see hey, what ways can I automate some of these touch points, right? And those engagement triggers are super, super important. The second is reminders and follow-ups. So utilize automated emails, notifications to sustain engagement. A big one here that we recommend is a daily digest, right? So, if you get a notification every time something happens, someone commented, someone liked, someone joined, someone responded, you're probably going to get overwhelmed. And so a daily digest is a great way to create some reminders and follow-ups to allow people to sustain that engagement. They can get a quick look, even if they just read the email and they see, is there anything here for me today? Yes. Okay, they click on something, they go in. They may not go every day, but that automated email can help sustain that engagement, right? The goal is to get them to come back, multiple times, either, hopefully some of your members are going to come back multiple times a day if they're super engaged. If you've been on any of our other webinars, we've talked about looking at those 3 levels of engagement. Maybe they're a diver, right? And they're in there all the time, asking questions, answering questions, being active in the community. But maybe they're a skimmer, right? And if you haven't, by the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about, skimmer, swimmer, diver, please click on my email or send us a note. We're more than happy to send you the webinar that we did on that as well, on the 3 levels of membership engagement. A little plug for our previous webinar there. But looking at that and saying, okay, you have to have reminders and follow-ups that are going to fit all these different levels of people that are a part of your community as well. Not everybody's the same. So use those automated emails to kind of support and help in that. And then finally, analytics and tracking engagement. So leverage tools to monitor the member activity, right? Let that help you improve the onboarding process. So as an example, if a topic is trending for new members around a core question or benefit, use that data that you have to create a call to action for the members. So, hey, we see a lot of you asking about, we'll say, X topic, right? AI. We'll continue to use that as our example. Next Tuesday at 10 a.m., we're actually going to host a live stream session with our executive director to answer some questions about this topic, right? So you can utilize the analytics that you have to see, okay, maybe we need to do a live session. Maybe we need to create another group. Maybe we need to create another forum. Maybe we need to pull our new members into an additional training or a call, and then utilize you and your team and powerful opportunities like this. Hey, our executive director is going to be on the call, or find someone in the industry that's really well known and be like, hey, would you mind coming in and doing a webinar or a talk on this topic? We're seeing a lot of people in our organization and our members, specifically our new members, asking a lot of questions about this, right? So that is a great way to create that, use automated engagement touchpoints, but to create those ways for people to get back into engagement within each other in the platform throughout the week, month, year. All right, measuring success. How do we measure success when it comes to onboarding strategies, right? So a couple of things here. Key metrics for success. One, you need to decide what your core metrics are. There's some core metrics, of course, that we could say, hey, these are some things that you should look at. But you as an organization know your people, you know your members, you know what's important in your industry, in specific topics. So look at those and say, what are the core metrics for success? What should that be? and then track the engagement and retention metrics against that to evaluate performance. One thing I see so often is organizations just, kind of copy and paste when it comes to analytics. They say, oh, we can get an analytic report. Can we get analytics? What do the analytics look like, right? Figure out what you want to track and what is important to you. What's important to organization A may not be at all important to organization B, right? You may care about what questions people are asking. Maybe you're in a really tech, industry where like really high-level tech-oriented questions and answers are flying around all the time, and you're trying to track like, okay, are people asking a lot of these questions? Are they, looking at different ways to follow, these opportunities and see what answers they have, right? So, this is a great way. So key metrics for success, right? The second is using feedback as a continuous loop, right? So use feedback, collect member feedback to enhance onboarding, right? Create those opportunities where you can collect and use member feedback, surveys, live sessions, create, maybe you're creating a forum, right? For continuous feedback loop. Hey everyone, if you ever have questions, make sure you join our Q&A or our feedback forum, right? If you ever have thoughts about how we can make your onboarding better, how we can make your ongoing engagement experience better, like please share with us, right? I think some organizations are afraid sometimes to ask for these questions because they're like, oh, one, either we're going to find out that we're doing something wrong, or two, we're going to find that we actually, need to make a change or do something, and maybe we don't have the time or the resources like to do that right now. Step out, of that kind of that fear and say, hey, no, we want that feedback, right? I'll give you a great example. I was talking with a group this week that was asking the big question like, hey, we want to add online community, right, to our membership. We know internally, like we know it would be a great idea, but before we do that, we're going to go and get feedback from our members. So they put together a survey of specific questions to their members and got that feedback, and they came back to us and they're like, Pete, it was an overwhelming response of yes, not only just check the box, yes, we want online community, but here are some of the things that we would love to accomplish in that community. Now all of a sudden they're setting themselves up for success before they even get started, right? Because they know exactly what their members are wanting. They know exactly what their members say. So don't be afraid to use that feedback loop. And also I'll say here too, this is a great opportunity. We talked about skimmers, swimmers, divers. Like your divers, your people who are your champions within your organization, those are great people to test feedback, with. So, hey, 5, 10, 15 people that we know are core, solid members, we've been getting this kind of feedback. What are your thoughts on this? How should we handle this? Like, don't be afraid to bring some of your super users into that conversation to help you create a solution for those problems or for the things that people are trying to address. And then finally, adjusting those strategies based on data. So refine onboarding strategies based on the activity and engagement trends. So what are you seeing? What are you hearing? Make sure that you are making adjustments. So an example, let's say you are seeing a drop-off in onboarding in like the 4th week, right? So reach out to those that dropped off and just simply ask, hey, why did you drop off? What happened, right? See if there's a pattern amongst the people that dropped off. Maybe it was just, hey, by week 4, the content was just getting kind of blah. I didn't see value in it anymore, and I'm just too busy. I don't have time to do that. While that seems kind of like, oh, that hurts to hear, that's great to hear because now you can actually make an adjustment to that. So the next time you onboard someone, when they get to that 4th week, you can make adjustments and changes so that they don't drop off, right? And then you can come back and say, hey, week 4, you're still here, you're rocking and rolling, like what's keeping you around, right? And get the answers from that and bring those together. So adjusting those strategies based on data is super, super important. Reach out to those that dropped off. See if there's a pattern. Address the issue. Get them back engaged, right? But most importantly, like I said, it's an opportunity to fix for the next time someone is onboarded and see if that trend continues or if you were able to resolve it. So in all of this today, we've talked about some key takeaways from our call today. So one, building a culture of connection is essential for long-term member retention. It is so important that we onboard people in a structured, thoughtful, personalized way so that they will stay with us long-term. Those first 90 days are so important to how we're bringing them into our organization. Personalized onboarding. Make it personal. Make it intentional. Keep those opportunities to bring them in new and exciting ways. And it's so critical to prevent that member drop-off. Leverage automation. Leverage data tracking. Ongoing communication. It's going to ensure a sustained member engagement. We gave some great examples as we talked through it as well. So here's some next steps for you. When we think about Pete, this is all great information, like what do I do next, right? I need to start building my onboarding strategy. One is implement best practices for onboarding engagement within your organization. And by this, I mean, take what you've learned today. If you already have an onboarding process or package, compare this today against your current plan. Look at those opportunities where there may be some gaps or areas to grow, but implement what are some of the things that we could do that would make a quick impact, right? I always like to think about quick wins. There may be some things where Pete, we need to overhaul our entire onboarding strategy, and that might be the case. But what are some quick wins that you can do today to implement to help your organization start to head in the right direction, right? It might be a 6-month process, but maybe there's some things you can do today to implement those best practices for onboarding. Second, use insights and metrics. So we've talked about this already, and I know I've kind of said this a few times, but it's so important that you're not just, shooting from the hip and guessing as to what you should do, but use insights from your members. Use metrics to continuously refine your strategies, right? Onboarding is not a set it and forget it. It is an opportunity to create a plan, try it. It's a little bit scientific and a little bit creativity, and then come back to the drawing board and say, this worked really, really well, and this didn't. And one thing I'll say as well is, on this call, right, there's so many people on here. One, reach out to us. We'd love to help, but you also have a community, right? Here at GrowthZone, one of the powerful things is all of the clients that we have, all of these clients are resources, right? Reach out to other people that are maybe in a similar organization as yours. Maybe they're in a different region. Maybe you're a chamber, or you want to reach out to another group, or you're an association to say, hey, I see this other group, just doing really well. Don't be afraid to reach out and learn from other people, right? That is your community opportunity as well. Use their insights and metrics to kind of get some ideas and refine your strategies. And then third is foster community-driven environment to strengthen those connections, right? We say it all the time, but community is so vital. It is the lifeblood of your organization and what you do. And so you have to foster a place where that community engagement can take place. It's going to strengthen those connections, and it's going to help your members not only, like I said earlier, increase their personal value and feel like they are accomplishing the goals and things that they want to accomplish, which they need to do, right? If they're going to be a part of your organization, they came here for a specific reason, to grow, to develop, to learn, but also to strengthen those connections with other people. Those connections, as you start to bring in 2, 3, 4 different points of connection for people, those are all ties. Think about, just ties to family, ties to community, ties to areas that you have in your life where it's it would be really hard for me to give this up because I have such a connection to this person or this group or this fill in the blank, right? That's what you want your members to have and feel, because that is going to improve that retention number. And it isn't just a a false retention, like, oh, we're just trying to trick you into retaining. It's like, no, we want to get to the deep root and cause of, as a human, why do you want to be here, right? Are we helping you? Are we challenging you? Are we growing you? Are you feeling connected with other people? And if the answer is yes, the chances of you retaining, now, if that's a simple checkbox answer, well, yes, of course. Like, I see so much value here, and the organization and the people have helped me grow so much. I can't imagine not being a part of this, right? That's where we want to get to. So with that, start building a stronger, more connected member experience today. With everything that we talked about, it is possible. Some of you on here today are already doing it. You're already doing a great job of onboarding your members. If you know you have a great onboarding program, don't be afraid to share some ideas and share some thoughts with other organizations and other people, right? I believe that rising tides rise all ships, right? We all learn and grow together. So let's help each other be more successful in our specific spaces and organizations. And second is just the opportunity you have to have an impact on somebody's life. And I know that this may sound a little cliche, but when people are coming into your organization and you're onboarding them, it's more than just steps that you have to take in this organization to be successful. You have an opportunity to have a connection point with another human that is asking for you to help them in some way. Hey, I'm joining your organization because I need help in these ways. I want to learn this. I want to grow in this way, right? That is a powerful thing when you have the opportunity to speak into someone in that way. So make sure that your onboarding process is going to help fulfill that and sustain that so that they, again, feel the power of, oh my gosh, I accomplished what I came here to accomplish. And now they can turn around and hopefully be one of those additional touch points to help the next onboarding group that comes in and get them connected and engaged as well. So with that, thank you so much for joining. If you do have questions, again, my email is in my bio, so please feel free to shoot me a direct email, peter.hodgen@growthzone.com. More than happy to answer any questions that you have. You can also fill out the form for a demo request or a follow-up. If you have a specific question as well, you can put that. There's a note section in there. You can put that in there, and one of our team members will make sure to get back to you and answer your question. We are so grateful for you, our GrowthZone community. We're so grateful for all that you do to impact the world around us, and we're just so grateful that we get to be a part of it in even just a behind-the-scenes way. So if there's any way we can make your world better or help you, please let us know. Have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to chatting with you soon.